Hi, and welcome to another episode of Nursing Your Way to Wealth, where a mental health nurse and an accountant talk about wealth creation, personal development, and financial independence in the UK to help you live the life you deserve.
Today, Alex and I are going to talk about how you can stay focused in a forever demanding world. So, we live in the 21st century, and there is so much attention put on eyeballs looking at stuff, on clicks on different websites. And it all takes a lot of our energy, both physical and mental. So, our chat today, which I hope you find interesting, is our thoughts on how we can stay focused, some tips on how you can reduce decision fatigue in your everyday life, and really some of the things that we've both fallen into, the things that we've noticed that perhaps take more of our attention than necessary, also whilst giving it a spin on money.
Yeah, hi everybody. And this is a really interesting topic because I think as most of you will know and experience, you often the demand for your attention is almost unprecedented, whether that be pings on your phone to adverts that you see and everything in between. There is a constant demand. And what I've would like to talk about and bring some things up is to how we can simplify some of the things in our control to help reduce, and from a financial standpoint, to help reduce some of that pressure and attention. And I've gone through a few exercises over the last kind of 10 years or so, having kind of aggressively pursuing my financial independence, and some hints and tips which I hope you find useful. And I think, Alex, it'd be great to obviously get your viewpoint on them as well. I guess I'll start with a few, but something I've tried to do from a financial standpoint is if you think about your costs as a whole, your biggest cost areas are probably your housing, your transport, and your food. And being able to keep those under control can really help, can take a lot of distraction away. So one thing I do religiously is batch cooking and meal planning. So and what this does is it may sound quite dull from the outside, but I know pretty much what I'm having for dinner for the next 2 weeks, and it's in the freezer. And utilizing slow cookers, and you can put for really quite cheap actually, like loads of vegetables and meat in there, and you get a really hearty curries and ragouts. They go in the slow cooker. It takes 20 minutes of prep time. You leave that for a few hours, and then you've probably got 4 or 5 servings, which serves 2 people of a dinner. And I just do that a few times over a weekend, and I've then got 2 weeks worth of food in my freezer. And I'm sure you've all experienced coming home late from work. You want to just, you can't be bothered cooking. It's too much effort to go out to the shops. You don't really know what to eat because there's just so much choice. And then it's the standard Uber Eats, Just Eat. The app pings and says, are you hungry after your dinner, after your day at work? And then it's automatically into the into the takeaway. And it's one of those things where it's super easy to do. It's more convenient than ever. You've got really clever marketing algorithms kind of targeting you. And I'm sure Alex will add about the actual how your brain is making you do that. But one thing I've found to keep my food costs under control and still enjoy really nice meals, and also to take the attention away. So I know as soon as I get home, I just need to cook pasta to go with my sauce. And that's the extent of my decision. Your decision isn't then, oh, well, what ingredients do I need to buy? Which supermarket? Where do I park? All of that stuff is taken away. And yeah, sorry, I've been a long introduction onto to batch cooking straight into it, but yeah, Alex, it'd be great to yeah. If you do you do that batch cooking? Do you employ any of those tactics?
Yeah, so I don't think it's a hugely long kind of segue into that. I mean, in terms of the general way of how our brains work, is certainly for me, I find I'm really ultra focused at work, and then as I commute home, I'm bringing myself out of that zone, and I can almost feel like the tiredness hit me, and then as soon as I get in the door, I have a cup of tea, and then my parasympathetic nervous system is like, bam, we're done now. Stop doing anything difficult. Also feed me what's for dinner. So I do use a slow cooker probably once a week. Probably no, I'm not as organized as certainly as it sounds that you are. I also don't have that much freezer space either. So I do have to kind of think about that. And there has been times where we've just resorted to not healthy kind of takeaway type eating because we're just both totally like knackered from our day's work. And it is a very, very easy option when all you need to do is click some buttons and it arrives at your door. And I think firstly, it's very easy to get into that frame of mind because your brain and your parasympathetic system means it will take the easy option, the rest and digest mode. Yes, it costs more money, but then it's kind of a trade-off. Do you trade your time then for a bit of that money, or do you trade your money to leverage you back some time? So I feel like my dog's just walked in the room. So if you can hear any dog sounds, that's my dog Six. Um, so yeah, I think it's leverage of time, and if you can be organised, like Alex, it sounds like you're kind of organised with that. It then removes all of that decision making that you're doing. So every decision you make, every part of a decision you make, everything you see is being processed by your brain. That's how advertising works. I mean, you see an advert for, I don't know, a beer, for example, on TV. You see it on a billboard when you're on the bus or the train. When you go anywhere near any kind of establishment that serves alcohol, you see the branding on the glass, on the beer mat, on the pump itself, and your brain will then say, actually, I've seen this before. Yeah, get that. So then it just becomes an automated thing if you see it. That's really my understanding of how branding works. And in terms of trying to focus on what we know is good for us, it is really, really difficult. So anything you can do, take away some of those extra decisions that you have to make is in my book is a really good thing. I mean, another example of that, not around cooking, is clothing for me. I'm not bothered really what I go to work in, so long as I'm clothed, obviously. So when I get up in the morning, if I don't put my clothes out the night before to again reduce decisions, I'll take whatever pair of trousers are next in my wardrobe and whatever t-shirt slash shirt is closest to that pair of trousers. And sometimes I've been to work wearing some real weird looking outfits, but I don't have to think about it. I don't think about how other people perceive me either, which is really helpful. So sometimes I have been to work looking like I'm ready for desert warfare, but it just means two beige things were closest together for me.
Yeah, I'd I'd like to see you in your full-on desert warfare kit out.
Don't. It happened last week.
Yeah, I'm not dissimilar, to be honest, with my clothing. I've over time have pretty much centered in on what clothes suit me and what I feel comfortable in, and that is a pair of jeans, a shirt, and a jumper. And I will wear shorts in the summer, and I'll not wear the jumper. And I try to buy clothes that so they look smart, so they can be worn to lots of different events, and I feel really comfortable in them. And so, but similarly, I know I can put my hand in my wardrobe, and I will have a set of clothes that will suit me, and they're all fairly neutral, standard colors. So, in terms of the question of what do I need to wear, pulling on my and using up some of my mental capacity in the morning, it really isn't there. So I find it a really useful trick to do. I think, yeah, that almost capsule wardrobe type thing is really, really handy. And I think each to their own. Some people really enjoy and define themselves by the clothes that they wear. I think, and it's, not saying that is obviously the wrong thing to do, but yeah, for me, I'm similar to you, Alex. I kind of have, yeah, my set of clothes, and I know that they fit me, and I feel good in them, and that will yeah, that will do. And I like not having those distractions. Is, yeah, another big win when it comes to trying to keep my mind focused for the day ahead.
Yeah, I think it's an important point, and I think it's something that certainly you and I have benefited from. I mean, where I've worked before in hospitals, I used to wear scrubs, and I just wouldn't have to think about any clothing items whatsoever because that is your default uniform. And I actually found it quite freeing to not have to think about anything like just to put stuff on in the morning. So I can focus on making an espresso to wake my brain up before going into the office or into a clinic or whatever, and then I don't have to think about what I was wearing. So again, it removed another aspect of thought. So I can focus on breakfast, I can focus on my commute, travel, parking, etc., etc. Somehow I'm still sometimes late to work. It's I get a bit time blind in the morning, and before I know it, it's way past the time I should have left, and then I'm rushing and stressed in the car, which I'm sure is not good for me. So I'm going to try and work on that as well. In terms of our focus, like humans obviously focusing on things, there's a really good book by Johan Hari called Stolen Focus. And I'm just reading a bit of the blurb here on his website. So it says the average office worker can only manage 3 minutes of sustained focus on something before they get distracted into something different. So, and I think he attributes that to essentially technology and how we've sped up everything. We've expedited as many tasks as we can. We've outsourced loads of tasks. If you think about it, back in well, certainly when we were in school, I mean, I'm 35 now. All my maths teachers said, "Oh, you won't have a calculator in your pocket," but now, I mean, everybody obviously does, and I don't need to do mental maths or the multiplications or division or whatever in my head anymore because it's just not something that I've ever had to do, at least for the last sort of 15 years or so. And the the difficulty in focusing, and I think we see it really prevalently in the work environment, is we're constantly being asked to do different tasks throughout the day. And I feel like your email inbox pings all the time at work. Your phone will ping all the time with loads of notifications from other places. And it makes it really difficult to focus on one task. So when you hear that familiar ping or someone else's phone ring that's got the same ringtone as you, you'll always check your own phone because it might, I don't know, it might be for you, and then you feel like you're missing something, so your brain forgets what it's thinking about, and then just focuses on whatever that notification is because we don't want to feel like we're missing something else. And I think we'll cover the fear of missing out or FOMO perhaps a bit deeper in another episode, but it's something like that. So we're constantly alert for phones ringing, text messages beeping, particular sounds that happen that demand our attention because we're always kind of not hyper alert to them as an anxiety state, but I think it's low level stress, like microdoses of stress of thinking, oh, that's happened, it might be important, I must read it now. And there's some other research I've been doing in preparation for this, and it states that when the average kind of office worker gets an email into their inbox, they will check it and do something about it within 6 seconds. And that must mean that person is just dropping whatever task they were in the middle of and just dropping everything else and immediately checking their inbox. So they might literally, they're losing their focus on what they're doing because they're swapping so quickly to another task.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly guilty of some of that, and it is very distracting, and it is very. I find it quite stressful. Yeah, it's a very inefficient way of working, but I've tried to like section days off in my section parts of my days where I will just focus on looking at emails and responding to avoid trying to, and rather than keeping it open and just responding to and yeah as and when, because it is that loss of um yeah loss of time and the switching cost between the different activities, and you suddenly feel like you've been running really fast at work and doing a lot, but then actually you look back at, well, I've not achieved anything because I've just been responding to other people's emergencies. And yeah, certainly a work to do on my side. But I think what I'd like to also just bring up as well is bring it to how can you, looking at your personal finances, what little changes can you make to just take some of that stress off you as well? And there's some really, I guess, handy little tips that so Alex and I were discussing before, and we can be good to discuss them now. But things such as automating investments or automating debt payments is a really good way of taking a bit of that mental stress off you. So if you've done your budget and you know how much you're going to be investing every month, automating that so it's a direct debit that just goes out and you know which funds you're going to be investing in, and you've automated that on the same day every month, I'm going to be buying X amount of this fund. That is a huge amount of mental energy that is saved. All you need to do is make sure that you've got the money from your salary in your bank account, and you have paid yourself automatically without thinking of it. I do that myself personally. I know which day of the week it goes out, and I know which funds it's going into, and it's super easy. I think that's a really effective way of just taking some of that off, like to some of that pressure off yourself. And another one I'd suggest is really helpful is actually having a budget. And if you know at the beginning of every month where your money is going, you automatically then know, like you then know exactly where it's going. You can avoid some of these distractions and these pulls on your attention. So, for example, if you know that for this month you've got £50 allocated to being able to go out with your friends, and once that £50 is gone, you don't have any more left. And so when you're getting all these pulls of attention, and it could be from various friends, or it could be from apps trying to get you to buy something that you don't need, actually, I've got £50 to spend this month, and you can then make your decision on it. And it just helps, I think, focus in on what I have to spend, and then it acts as a bit of a barrier then against these competing demands for your time and attention. So I personally find that quite helpful. And it's making sure that you have a budget set up so it's, right for you and right for your life. But yeah, Alex, I don't know, do you do similar things? Yeah, it'd be great to get your thoughts on those.
I pretty much have to do those things, otherwise I would get so distracted I wouldn't really get anything major done. So the reason I'm in a better financial position now than I was when I was 30, when I started really learning about finances, is because I've automated 90 something percent of the big stuff. Um, I automate all of any bill or payment transfer standing order that I can automate, I will do it. So I literally just don't have to think about it. So I've been investing pretty consistently now for 4 years, or so, yeah, 4.5 years now. And I've never once had to make a manual payment. And that, I think, as a wealth building behavior, has had such a big impact on me, because let's say I'm investing £200 a month, for example. The day after I get paid, I then have to sit somewhere, log into an app, manually transfer that over. But then what your brain will likely do was say, actually, you could spend this on something else. There's that other thing that you've been looking at. You've worked really hard this month. Why don't you treat yourself instead of doing investing? And there's always next month. There's always later. There's always not now because things are difficult or things are getting on top of you. And those things in life will always happen. It's just life. So the automating of something means you can literally forget all about it. So the way I would describe my investment strategy is direct debits every month into certain funds, and I look out the window. I don't do anything more than that. And it's had such a good impact on my financial health that I would 100% advocate all of it. I'm all for automating as many things financially as you can. So I just don't have that decision fatigue. I don't have to battle my own brain that says, well, you could invest this £200, or you could buy insert whatever object or thing you've been thinking about or that you've seen lots of advertisements for recently. I think another, like swinging this back to employees and work, I just these stats about responding emails in 6 seconds. I've just scrolled a bit further down, and there's more recent research from 2005 and 2007 now that says it takes a full 10 minutes to switch between tasks effectively to be able to work on it. And people end up having 96 interruptions in a typical work day, which ends up on average costing them an hour and a half of productivity lost to reorientating into tasks. That's a huge amount of time that is just lost to the ether. And I wonder if it's something that businesses are aware of, or if it's just a sunk cost now, and it just that is the cost of having humans to do work. Alex, does that answer your question, or did I get distracted on an episode about being focused?
Yeah, no, all good. Yeah, that no, definitely. I think it's automation is so key, and it's good to your investment strategy of automate and then look out the window. I think it's really effective advice for everybody. Not financial advice if we're not giving financial advice, but you know, good suggestion.
This is just what I do with my time and my money. And honestly, for 100% clarity here, whenever I'm not doing anything important, I'm not just gazing out of my window. Sometimes I do that in the morning when I've just made my espresso and I'll look into a garden or across like out of one of my windows maybe. But I really, really, when I'm not recording podcasts or reading books or actually working or something or asleep, I'm literally not here just staring out of windows, waiting for my invested money to grow to a point where I can retire. I'm doing extra useful things, I promise.
Yeah. Um, Another thing I wanted to bring up actually is on almost the concept of decluttering your finances. So as people, you join the workforce and you start to collect different bank accounts, or you might take different credit cards, and things where even if they've got no money in them, or you don't owe any money on them, on cards or things, or certainly things like subscriptions and memberships, which seem to just have a habit of hanging around, and those annoying things which they're super easy to sign up for, but really difficult to cancel. By almost taking stock of all of these type of accounts and memberships and subscriptions, and just going through and ruthlessly just closing them off. So I I went through a phase of I was saving up for something and trying to be clever by opening about 3 or 4 different savings accounts to maximize the amount of interest I could get. But then after about a year, when the offers all roll off, you've then just got 4 really crappy savings accounts that you're never going to use. And I never went round to actually closing them. And then I got to a point I got a bit fed up of just receiving statements which just said zero. I was never going to use the account. And I then just went through and closed them all off. And it was really quite a nice feeling actually to get rid of them. But it's another thing then it's not distracting me because I'm not getting these pings from the bank saying you've got a statement to read. And similar with some of the old subscriptions that I just had hanging around for like £3 a month or whatever, I just got rid of them. And one benefit I actually found was, so if you do that, you'll definitely almost give yourself a bit of a pay rise because you'll find things that you don't need. It's cleansing for your mind because there's just fewer distractions. But also on the topic of bank accounts, if you've got old current accounts that you've had and you've since moved to a new bank or whatever, if you close those, and after I think of a period of about 2 years normally, you'd be then classed as a new customer. And there are options where banks offer switching incentives. So you can switch your current account to them and you'll be given sometimes upwards of like 100, £150 to switch to that bank account. And if you've closed your account and you're no longer with that bank, after a few years, you become a new customer and eligible to earn these like few hundred quid. So I did it. Went on a switching binge last year, and I got about I think £550 I earned from the bank account switches. And but it's you almost have to stay on top of closing off your accounts when you don't need them to then become a new customer. So yeah, I'd recommend that as an exercise to almost declutter your financials, because if you know you've got one bank account, that's where your salary goes in. You have, might have one credit card, you might have one savings account and one investment account. That's a lot easier to manage than 4 or 5 old bank accounts that you don't use anymore. I'm getting statements from random savings accounts that I've had and offers still from a credit card that I've never used in 4 years. It already just creates that level of simplicity and takes that distraction away. So I'd love to hear your thoughts, Alex, on my personal finance decluttering.
I love the idea in principle. I'm all for decluttering mind, body, spirit, soul, and house. Sadly, you've described me really. So when you when you were talking, I was just making some notes here. So at the moment, I've got 3 pension pots. I've got bank accounts open with 2 different providers, which are actually under the same like branch. The more you look up the chain, and I've got some other like random savings accounts that I still have open with like zero money in. So over the last kind of 6 months or so, I've made a big effort to swap pensions into one pot. Of course, do check that you're not going to lose out on any benefits. If you think that might be the case, it's 100% worth you getting some advice around that. But I've got current accounts with 2 banks right now, and I've tried really hard to close one of them. I cannot do it online. I have to go into the branch, which doesn't sound like a terrible thing to have to do, and I'm fortunate to be able to go and do that. But again, it takes 2 hours of my time that I'd much rather be doing something else. I'd rather sit outside in the sun drinking coffee than do that. So that part of my brain goes into that mode of actually it's too difficult. It's quite a lot of effort. Just shred the statement once a year when you get it. But I get statements, I get emails about cards I've closed. I get constant updates from that bank to the point where I had to just delete the app because it was pinging at me so often. And as a result of that, I've actually thought about how else I get notifications and like feedback from stuff, and I've been using an app called Minimalist Phone to reduce the amount of like notifications and stuff I get, so I can hopefully try and find some peace from all this noise that's going on, going on around me. So I would I would say do as Alex says, not as I've been doing, and make a bit of an effort to do that. And I try and do the same when I get emails from random places that I don't remember signing up to. If I don't want any more, I'll try and find an unsubscribe button. And it has reduced the amount of emails, like the spam, like junk stuff that you buy one thing from a company 4 years ago, and every Halloween they send you an email about something you don't care about. So I spend a little bit of time 30 seconds or so to unsubscribe from that, to take myself off this mailing list, to just try and buy my future self a bit more uninterrupted time, because the time is, as we say often here, it's the one thing that's not renewable. It's the one thing you can't get back once you've spent it. Alex and I have spent 29 minutes and 9 seconds now recording this, and we're not going to get this time back. We only hope that it's of use to some of you out there. And certainly it kind of selfishly helps me collect my thoughts, and for us to explain stuff, we need to know it, hopefully inside out. So Alex, I mean that's really my answer. I'm not very good at that kind of thing because I get distracted by stuff, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, no, it's a perfect case in point. And it is really, it is a tricky thing to do because, yeah, there's just so many pulls on our time. I know it's certainly helped me just, rationalizing a lot of my old accounts and stuff like that. And but when I first looked at them, it's amazing how much you kind of accrue over the years. And it's, I was similar. I had like my the bank I'd been with for years and years as a kind of one of my first bank accounts, and I just kept that. And I looked at it, I must have had about 8 different accounts, like with sub accounts within them. And yeah, it was quite rewarding to then close all those other accounts, and then actually have ended up switching to my current provider and got £175, I think, for that. So yeah, there's lots of benefits from it. But it's such an important topic, and I think just trying to be mindful of all these things are trying to get your attention, and as many things as you can just minimize and quiet, you only benefit from doing it.
I think people will benefit from it and feeling a bit of peace from all of that distractibility. I mean, I heard it said, I think it's a Naval Ravikant thing, that people actually, they're not searching for peace of mind in the 21st century. They're searching for peace from mind, because your mind and your thoughts are the one thing you can't escape unless you're asleep. And then you have, I don't know, perhaps you have weird, like funky dreams. Who knows? And I think that it's something that we're constantly being bombarded. And I think there are certainly links to why we're seeing humans, just struggle with stress now, struggle with worsening mental health, because we've got constant demands on our brain and we're just not used to it. And we're not sleeping perhaps as well. Sleep is massive, and I hope we'll cover that at some point as well. So they're just all huge. So take a step, if you can, to think about, do you need to be signed up to this list? Do you want to be signed up to this list? Do you want to be the type of person that signs up to all these, I don't know, email newsletters or magazines or whatever? Magazine, I'm dating myself here, but it's something that, again, it looks at your time. I mean, I used to be signed up to 4 or 5 different newsletters from mostly finance and health creators, but I found out I only really read 2 out of those 5, and I would end up feeling a bit guilty just to delete all of that person's hard work out my inbox. So I just cut them out, and I don't think about them anymore because they're not constantly pinging in my mind. So I think you owe it to yourself to give yourself a little bit of a gap. Everyone's working double hard to achieve these things. Certainly, people on this FIRE path, similar to us, or at least the FI path, you kind of work towards something that's a bit against the grain. It's a little bit niche, and it can be a little bit isolating when you do these certain things. It makes perfect sense to us, 100%, but it can be difficult. So there's definitely a reward for quietening the mind. It gives you a bit of an ability to refocus on what's important, to recognize that you are getting distracted, because you will. I mean, I get distracted sitting here. Even when I'm trying to record this, my brain's thinking about something I thought about last week. I've probably thought about Maseratis 4 times since hitting record, which is once every 9 minutes. So it's an entirely normal thing. And the key thing with meditation or meditative practice is recognizing that you have these thoughts and simply letting them pass, and then recognizing them again when you have those thoughts. And that's really our brains reacting to everything we see. And it means you're entirely normal. You're normal. I'm normal. Alex is normal. It's a symptom of living in the 21st century with all of its greatness and all of its speed and potential. It does come with some downsides. And if we can harness the upside, recognize the downside, it'll put us in certainly good stead for our FI path, but also, I'm hoping, good stead in life. Alex, we're at 34 minutes. Is there anything else you'd like to add or bring in before we wrap this one up?
No, I think that was a lovely way of surmising what we've been talking about. So yeah, thanks for that.
No idea where it came from. Didn't write it down. It just came out of my head. So I guess for that segment, that small window of 30 seconds or whatever, I didn't get distracted because I was concentrating on something.
That's it. You're in the flow state.
That's it. Yeah. Can you pronounce the dude's name who come up with the flow state or not?
No.
I can't. Absolutely not. So for anyone listening, the flow state is it's created by, wait, who was the guy who did it? Let me Google it. He's got a really long surname and it's really difficult to pronounce. Let me have a quick. Oh my goodness, that is a long word. So Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. 8 traits of flow. It's been good. We should definitely cover that as well. But for now, episode 18, that is done. It's our attempt at talking about staying focused in a forever demanding world.
None of what we discuss on the show is to be considered financial or health advice, and we recommend you always do your own research or consult an independent financial advisor or a doctor when making your financial or health decisions.